All right, good morning, gang, and welcome to the new work week. Welcome to Monday. We're at a frosty 12 degrees here in the Granite City. We have a winter weather advisory for Orange County and points south beginning at 4 p.m. today into early Tuesday. We have light accumulating snow and or flurries that will be developing southern and eastern Vermont. Later this afternoon, just seeing the note here from Roger Hill. Got to get dusting to an inch by dark, making for, of course, snow-covered roads, and then maybe some sleet coming into the picture as well. So anywhere along the Connecticut River Valley, upper 20s to near 30, so certainly enough to keep it slick under your tires. So go easy. We'll give you more details. We're watching things carefully from Vermont meteorologist extraordinaire Roger Hill. We have a lot to get to. On Mondays, we bring Cody Morrison from Barre Area Development onto the microphones, onto the cameras, and we talk about what's happening in and around the Granite City. And with us right now, Cody Morrison. Good weekend for you, bud?
Yeah, pretty good, I'd say. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I went out to Burlington, did a little shopping, and put some miles in the car, dug ourselves out of the snow.
Yeah. Same deal. We did some sledding with Lily yesterday, some ice skating this weekend. So I'm kind of a little ginger this morning.
Can you skate, JD?
I am a great skater with my boots on. If you run fast enough, and then you just, I can, yeah.
The milk crates are good. The milk crates.
The milk crates, yes,
yep.
yes.
That's a classic.
I use milk crates for a lot of different reasons, but that was one of them. And the chair, you just sit in the chair and you push the chair along. That way you won't sit and fall on your ass.
Yep.
But this is not the time. Not the time to get hurt ice skating. You end up in the ER. This is no. You have to play things safely.
Speaking of ice skating, the girls' hockey team is crushing everybody in Vermont right now.
Yep.
They have to be 10-1, I think, at this point.
Yes.
Shannon Alexander and I went down to one of their games, I want to say on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we saw them beat Burlington Colchester, and it was just like they were running a clinic. It was impressive.
Was it pretty loud in there with the crowd?
The sirens. Whenever they scored a goal, which I think they scored 8 goals that night, or something ridiculous. So that siren was going off, it seemed like half the night. But there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, and speaking of sports, and I wanted to mention this this morning, 24 athletes with ties to Vermont are being represented with the 2022 Winter Olympics. And it's kind of difficult to find out who they are and when they're going to be competing and all that. I have links that I'm going to be actually I dropped one last night on the page. Michaela Schifrin, of course, 26 years old, is one of several. So I've got that on the page. So folks want to if they're Jamie Anderson, Jesse Diggins. Ryan Cochran Siegel, the 29-year-old from Starksboro, the alpine skier. There's some great stories behind these Vermonters.
We went to Mulligan's the other day for lunch, and they have the TVs and the booths, and we were able to watch the biathlon or triathlon, the one where you do cross country skiing and you shoot the little pellet guns. I'm never gonna get it right, but it's the
my God. Yeah, the biathlon. Yeah,
the Finnish military drill event.
I don't know how they do it either. They're all out of breath and they're trying to take aim on a target. It's incredible.
Well, I mean, you were in the service. You know what it's like to run out of breath and then shoot dead center.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what it's like to be out of breath getting up off the couch.
And another fun fact in the sports world before we move on to the economy and all that, the Montreal Expos franchise is now, I think, officially done. The last player to ever get drafted by the Expos has retired.
Wow.
Yeah, did you know that?
No.
Was
shaken down over the weekend?
probably last week or so at some point.
All right.
The guy was drafted in the 90s. He never ended up playing baseball. He kind of went another way. He ended up, I think, getting into football.
Yeah.
Played for the Patriots for a while.
Yeah.
Then just retired with the Buccaneers.
Wow.
Tom Brady. Yeah, Tom Brady was drafted by the Expos in the 90s to be a catcher.
Are you shitting me?
Oh yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, and he ended up going to Michigan instead, and then
Oh my God.
becoming the greatest quarterback ever.
Yeah. Wow.
But if things had gone a little differently, Tom Brady might have been playing just a few hours north instead of a few hours down south.
Wow. Let's get into it this morning because something that I'm anxious to tell you about, and we chat a little bit before we go live here, but not much. The National Moving Company, United Van Lines, just released their 45th annual National Movers Study, which analyzes internal customer data. And people seem to be moving from some of the more lockdown states to states that are a little bit more relaxed and wide open. Number one on the list is Vermont.
That people are moving to.
Yes. South Dakota, South Carolina, West Virginia, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Oregon, Idaho, and Rhode Island rounds out the top 10. But the number one state that people are moving to, Vermont, which kind of contradicts what we've been seeing and hearing in the news here in our state, that we're losing our population.
Do we know, as part of that report, do we know anything about the people that have moved up here, though? Do we know if they're middle-aged, young families, retired? Do we know?
Don't. Don't.
During COVID, during the early days of COVID, the governor would have his press conference, and those things would happen every day. You'd see the map, and you'd just see a sea of red with a little green speck up in the northeast up there.
Sure.
I would think that would have a big part to do with it. You can't buy that advertising for a state.
Yeah.
But also, if you're looking to move to a rural area, Vermont's great because you're right in the middle of Boston, New York City, Montreal. What is it? You can reach 50 million people within like a 8-hour drive or something like that from Vermont. So you're still, like, if you were to move to the middle of like Iowa, you're still far away from like major metropolitan areas. But at least here in Vermont, you can take Amtrak and you can head down to New York City.
That's right.
Even if you wanted to move your company over here, you still have access to the ports and the rail and the airlines. So it's no wonder why people are moving up here.
This is again, and I'll post up the study here on the page. But this is the National Moving Company, United Van Lines, that just came out with this National Mover Study. 45 years they've been doing this, and the states that people are getting the hell out of, three of the 10. Are neighboring states to Vermont: Massachusetts, Connecticut, which isn't a neighboring state, but right here in New England, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York. Number 10, Nebraska. 9, Ohio. 8, Louisiana. 7, Massachusetts. 6, Michigan. 5, California. 4, Connecticut. 3, New York. 2, Illinois. And the number one state that people are moving out of, New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm not surprised there. I'd move out of New Jersey too.
You couldn't pay me enough.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay me enough to live there.
I mean, it makes sense for the surrounding states just because a lot of those people probably vacation up here. They probably visit here in the summer.
Yeah.
Or come up to Killington or come up to Jay and go skiing in the winter, Sugar Bush.
That's right.
And if you're doing your work from home, then why not just go chill in your cabin with your computer for a year?
Right.
I mean, I can't say I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Especially if I lived in East Rutherford.
Oh my God.
Or Newark. But
top of the headlines this morning: the United States inflation is probably about to spike yet again. This is 2.4% pay cut last year is what the average worker received, despite the higher wages. 2.4%. These are all new numbers just coming out today. Bloomberg has got it, and it's all over the news. So I will make sure that this gets linked up on our page as well. But the Consumer Price Index jumped about 7.3% in January from a year ago. That's the largest annual advance since 1982. So anyway, yeah, I think the last we said was inflation was up 7%, which was the highest in 40 years.
Yeah,
40 years.
And you got a lot of pent up demand with COVID.
Right.
A lot of people are making. And there aren't a ton of people that are sitting idly right now.
That's right.
People are buying homes. People are renovating. People are making plans for the later years in their life.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got a lot of issues right now with the logistics industry, supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Carts and crates sitting out in port waiting to, you had Giroux Trucking on here last week.
That's right.
Who's able to tell you all about.
Right. And we've been a little bit, you and I both together have been a little bit of somewhat of a broken record with the supply chain stuff and workforce shortage. But this is kind of our one opportunity each week to not only discuss the forecast of this nationally, but also talk about how it's affecting Main Street Barre.
Oh, absolutely.
Barrytown in central Vermont.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's why we come on too. Is the economy changes from week to week. Imagine in March in 2020 if I was thinking about this the other day, if we had been on, we had this partnership set up in March of 2020, what those shows would have looked like.
Right.
We would have been changing from week to. I probably would have been on daily at that point with the mayor or the city manager or
hourly,
whoever.
Right.
But the workforce, the supply chain issues. That's we're a broken record here, but that's the number one issue that I hear about from the business community, and it's not just the private sector; it's every part of the economy, every corner of the economy are facing issues with this. So it's not just hardware stores and building supply companies that are having trouble finding lumber or whatever, or whatever part they're looking for. But think about it. If a school wants to do a renovation, if the city wants to put money into paving, then you're going to be competing with a lot of pent up demand from other municipalities. Contractors that the city or the town would be looking to hire to perform these services, to perform these repairs. These general contractors are facing the same issues. So it reaches every single corner of the economy right now.
Sure.
But before we dive into too much of that, Mike Bova said, going back to why people are moving to Vermont, I think the Hallmark Channel has had a lot to do with people moving to Vermont.
Oh God, Bova.
That is 110% true.
Yeah. Oh, sure it is.
So I remember when we moved up here, my spouse was just, she was new to Vermont. She had grew up in the seacoast area of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And she'd been to Vermont a few times before, but never really spent too much time here. And I remember stories of her telling her friends what Vermont is like, and one of her friends saying, "Oh, so it's a Hallmark movie."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I have not got that out. I've spent a lot of time here.
Listen, let's tell.
I've never been able to get that.
Let's
that
tell Bova
out of my head.
Let's tell Bova, and I think he's in New Jersey right now. But let's tell Bova. Yes, it is true. It's probably one of the biggest secrets. We are all filthy rich up here in Vermont. We have nothing to do other than walk around in our fancy $500 sweaters and scarves and the Christmas lights everywhere, and drive these 1940s antique red pickup trucks with the Christmas tree in the back. We've got nothing else to think about.
Like somebody, I think it was BuzzFeed or somebody made a video, like a parody video about a girl that came to Vermont, and she came here in the winter and said, "Okay, I don't have the Christmas spirit," and waited and said, "Okay, where's the local that is gonna ask me if I want to save an inn?" And she's going to different parts of the state and says, "Okay, did I have to sign in with a mayor or something? Where's the town busybody? Do I have an inn to save? I don't."
Wait a second. It's 9 o'clock at night, and you're telling me I can't go buy a gallon of milk anywhere?
It is just kind of funny.
What are snow tires? I thought all season tires would suffice.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
pet peeve of mine. Yeah,
the list goes
the list goes on. But anyways,
yeah.
So back to the inflation part. It's something that's impacting every part of the economy, and actually, right now it seems like it's starting to motivate a little more domestic manufacturing. Companies have been offshoring jobs and production, and we'll buy various parts of various systems to have them assembled.
Sure.
There are certain companies that will send some raw material to China or to Europe, have it refined, manufactured, then send it back here to sell. That's not unheard of, but now because of the supply chain issues and kind of disruptions issues in the Chinese economy right now. They have a zero tolerance policy for COVID. They have an energy crisis right now that's definitely impacting their domestic manufacturing. They're having trouble keeping the lights on in a lot of areas right now because of a self-imposed coal embargo, and 75% of China is powered by coal. So little things like that are making sourcing those raw materials or those refined products cost prohibitive, or not cost advantageous anymore. So you're starting to see a little bit of a turn back towards some companies reconsidering whether they want to source their products from overseas. I've heard about it here in Barre, actually, of a company considering expanding that's already here because they're looking at one product or one piece that they don't want to order from China because it's container costs, shipping cargo container costs are increasing coming from overseas.
That's right. And I don't know if you heard the upheaval over the weekend with NATO and everything that's happening. Continued upheaval, but and now we've got China saying that they're going to stand with Russia. So I mean, they're going to more distractions.
That was going to happen, but I think I mentioned this first 3 weeks ago or so, that you have 100,000 Russians sitting on the Ukrainian border right now, and if they do decide to invade, which it looks like they're going to, then gas prices are going to go up. Russia is the world's second largest oil producer.
I was just reading that this weekend,
and it's not just the petroleum that
we
second?
Get. Are they really second?
Yep.
Wow.
They are Europe's primary supplier for oil or for natural gas. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline going from, I think, the St. Petersburg area down into Germany, I think, is a big geopolitical chess piece right now that's being used in negotiations whether to cancel that. But China, of course, is going to stand with Russia. But is China willing to tank the economy again?
Roseanne says, you mean gas prices are going to go up even more?
Absolutely. Gas prices are going to go up even more. But the U.S. response and the Western response is going to have a big implication on on developments in the South China Sea. If China sees that the West is allowing Putin to walk into eastern Ukraine, then why can't Xi Jinping walk into Taiwan? Or they're already manufacturing islands in the South China Sea and expanding their territorial, their exclusive economic zones. If you're Vietnam, if you're South Korea, if you're Cambodia, if you're Japan right now, you're probably paying a lot of attention over to what's happening in Europe right now. And luckily, it seems like NATO and the European powers there's some level of cohesion and togetherness that this is resulting in. You've got, I think, Sweden has deployed troops to one of their islands in the Baltic Sea. U.S. troops are going over to Poland right now. I think Finland is.
It's incredible how with your job being the director of Barre Area Development, how you really can't just have your blinders on to what's up and down Main Street. You have to go up 100,000 feet and look down and see not only what's going on right now, but what's coming. what's coming.
I remember
You have to.
I remember in February, early February of 2020, about 2 years ago now. I remember calling companies in my previous job saying, "Hey, what is this coronavirus thing? What's this going to do for you guys?"
Same thing.
And
Same thing.
Companies were telling me,
Poo-pooing it.
yeah, okay, we might have some supply chain issues in quarter 3 or quarter 4, you know, which would have been the fall or winter of 2020.
Yes.
But other than that, like right now, we're not in any major danger.
Yeah.
But then
It'll stay over there, is what I heard.
Yeah. But
I remember the same thing, dude.
But
you have to be watching what the conditions are everywhere, far beyond the borders of our state, because ripple effect is a real thing.
Oh, absolutely. We have an interconnected economy. We're not just our economy goes far beyond just Vermont or beyond the Northeast or Barre or even the U.S. You know, we have a lot of companies that are international.
Yeah.
We have Chinese-based companies right here in our community.
Right.
And we have the Granite Industry purchases from India and purchases from, I'm sure, Brazil and China and other parts of the world. You know, that's been the advantage of globalization, is that we've been able to have diversity of products and suppliers, manufacturers.
Sure.
But as we've seen through COVID, that's also kind of the potential weak spot, kind of the soft underbelly.
Yeah.
If something were to happen, then the ripple effect that starts with COVID goes all across the world.
Huge.
Because China is the world's factory for what it's worth.
Right. I had shifting gears a little bit. I have a close friend that over the last week or two, he and I got into a conversation about his neighbors, who are two very elderly folks who are generally doing okay, but just the discussion of the overall quality of care, which is not great in skilled nursing facilities everywhere, not just Vermont, everywhere. And just for so many different justifiably accurate reasons. But what the plan would be, what the hopes would be. He's extremely close to his neighbors. They're almost like a mom and dad, and always having a plan. What's the future going to look like? Do we have a plan in place? And the discussion went around, well, let's start eliminating what I think they should do. They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't do that. Go here, go there, whatever. And it went into them remodeling the downstairs portion of their home and basically turning it into somewhat of an in-law apartment for these two elderly neighbors that if they were in the position where they needed, they weren't able to keep their home or whatever, that they could move in. And I mean, there's a lot of people that are having this mindset right now of it's almost kind of like a survival instinct of keep your family as close as possible and keep them in your home or move into their home and keep everyone together. Don't divide up the family right now. We're seeing a lot of that. Any ideas on that?
Yeah, it's tough times right now, and it has been for a couple of years now. One thing that you mentioned in expanding living space and like in-law apartments, that's actually a trend that you're seeing right now amongst residential property owners. Yeah. So homeowners are starting to take a little bit of an entrepreneurial take to housing right now, and people are renovating their they're taking the attic space that is in their garage and converting it to an in-law apartment,
That's
or
right.
converting their basement to an apartment here and there. I think part of it is just because the opportunity exists right there, and and that's what you get with our free market economy. You have an asset that you can make money off of. So if you know there's a housing crunch right there, why not put the money in?
Right.
And what if you're an empty nester and if all of a sudden your kids are going off to college and you have the spare bedroom, or if you go ahead and put a little bit of money into it, find a contractor, get a building permit, and
or maybe you've got the skills yourself.
Or maybe you have the skills yourself too. Go buy some lumber and swing some hammers, and see if you can make an extra $1,000 a month or whatever.
Right.
Pay your property taxes, pay your utilities, or whatever it may be. So that's a trend that you're seeing in the housing market right now, and skilled nurses or traveling nurses, that's one housing solution that's certainly benefiting that industry. The benefit with hosting traveling nurses in your home, if you were to renovate your garage or whatever it is for an in-law, is you're going to be housing someone who's making average to above average income, is probably working 60 hours a week, and needs your space for 3 to 6 months. Basically, it's an Airbnb.
That's right. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, so that's one kind of entrepreneurial take that property owners are taking right now.
I wonder if city government will get involved with that in any way.
Well, the city council and the mayor and the city has indicated interest in using some of their ARPA funds and allocating it towards housing. What specifically the money will go towards in housing? Housing is a very broad term. Is it going to go towards paying Act 250 permits? Is it going to go towards putting in water and sewer lines? Is it going to go towards building a bridge or building a funding road construction for subdevelopment? Is it going to go towards a revolving loan fund? Is it going to go towards renovation grants to get them up to safe and suitable standard, or whatever the HUD term is, that any government funded property would have to get up to just to just to safely house somebody. So there's a lot of different ways that it can turn. However, though, one thing that you are probably going to hear about in the conversation with the housing is that because there's a lot of federal money, there's a lot of state money, a lot of local money, which all ties back to originally being federal money. Because there's a lot of money out there right now for that, you're going to have a sector of the economy that does ultimately become inundated with work that already is, and it's a good thing. We do need the housing. There are hundreds of jobs that are available right now, and only not very many apartments that are available. Not many places to live. If you're looking to buy a house, you don't have a ton of options right now. So it is a part that does benefit and does help alleviate some of the workforce issues. But I think inflation with materials, building supplies, labor is probably going to go up over the next couple construction seasons, just because there is so much stimulus right now in that sector.
Yes.
But one big opportunity as it relates to housing just became available in Barre City, actually. There's a little over 34 acres available for a subdevelopment off Prospect Street. So if somebody wanted to go and...
How many acres?
It is 36.67, so about 36 acres.
Wow.
So if somebody wanted to go and put some roads in, put some infrastructure in, wanted to go through the permitting process, wanted to go through Act 250, then someone would be able to have a subdevelopment property of their own, and that's about $250,000 property.
Wow. Barstow Construction ought to snatch that right up. 34 acres on Prospect Street.
Oh, absolutely.
Build a bunch of condos and huge swimming pool with a indoor water park and skating rink. I wish Rex Thompson would weigh in on everything you're talking. You're talking about building materials going up and construction prices.
I think Rex would be a great guy to develop that property. I wonder where he is today.
Because I'll tell you exactly where he is. It's Monday morning. He's sleeping in.
Yeah, he's sleeping in this. Good for him. He works hard.
What do you have to say? Number one, I wouldn't buy anything in Barre City.
Why?
Because of the hoops, the stupid shit that they have going on all the time in here when you're trying to be a builder, a landlord, your Act 250. Between the state, it's bad enough to build dealing with the state. But then to have to deal with Barre City politics on top of that. Everybody in Barre City has great ideas. Nobody has the money to follow through with it. It takes time. It takes money. It's ridiculous. It's like every person has a handout wanting money to make this stuff happen. If you just got rid of half of the redundant regulations, you would see a building spike. There would be we would be like New Hampshire. Why are we not like New Hampshire? New Hampshire has booming businesses down there. They have plenty of places to live. Why is that? What makes us different? We're in the same demographic. We have the same type of people. It's regulations. So Vermont is geared towards retired people. That's what it is in reality. We don't do anything for people to stay here in Vermont. We don't cater to businesses. Believe it or not, businesses bring income in. Businesses bring tax revenue in. But we don't gear towards any of that because we want to keep our state nice and beautiful, and we all want to look around and see the trees. We don't want to see buildings. So that's the trade-off that we have here in Vermont. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, but that's the actual trade-off that we have here. We have so many regulations. It hinders building. It slows the process. It stops people. It gets people like me going, no way in hell. I'm not building there. I'm not doing that. If you've ever gone through if you've ever been a landlord in Barre, I guarantee you won't want to be one ever again. The first time that your tenants trash your building, owe you $17,000 in rent money, and the city or the state does absolutely nothing but chastise you, tell you how you have to keep these people in place and not throw them out, you'll get sick of being a landlord. That's how I feel about it.
Well,
I'm in a great mood, though. Other than that, I'm in a really good mood. Building prices, as far as building prices go, materials, I think they're starting to level off. I don't think they're going to go down, but I don't see them going up either. As far as what we're seeing right now, I think everything's staying pretty stable, pretty steady at ridiculous prices.
Yeah.
I think that, between the shortage and it's not just, it's more than just supply and demand. No, it's not. It's all supply and demand. They can't get stuff out because there's no one to work. Those days of paying people $12, $13 an hour to come work are long gone. So what happened is workers finally took a stand. They were financially able to take a stand. Before, there was no federal money. There was no government money. There was nothing. You had to go to work. You didn't have a choice. Now with the money, a lot of workers said, you know what? We're sick of being kicked around. We're sick of working for peanuts. We're sick of struggling as our bosses are making a shit ton of money. So something that we did was we probably pay our employees in the construction business more than most around here. I mean, my laborers are getting $19.50 an hour. And that's, in order for me to hire people, that's what I got to do. That's really, really what I have to do. And you're going to see a lot of businesses left behind because they're still trying to hire people for $13 an hour. They want them to go out at 20 below zero and either get on a roof or do siding. And they want them to do it for $13 an hour and not realizing that times have changed.
Anything, Cody? Rex Thompson sugarcoating everything as usual.
Right from the business community, right there. These are conversations I have on a daily basis.
They are.
Yep. The people, you heard it right here from the people that are hiring, from the people that are building, from the people that are firing, and from the people that are literally helping to build our community.
Yeah. And some comments that are spiking here as a result. Landlords pay more than they get is just one of them. How can the city help besides complain about the evil landlords?
Exactly.
Says,
what incentives do you have in Barre City to bring a business here, to have somebody build in here? What incentives? What is making me want to build in Barre City?
Cody?
Rex, you can finish.
Go ahead.
So, what incentives, if people want to see housing brought into Barre City, if people want to see business brought into Barre City, what incentives are there for a business owner? What am I going to get? Why would I want to jump through hoops? Why would I want to put millions of dollars of my own money, take a huge, huge risk of my own money to put somebody in a, say, low-income housing that's just going to trash my house? I'm never going to recoup my money. What incentives? Give me some sort of incentive to whatever. Call it corporate welfare or whatever you want to call it, but unless you have some sort of incentive, I never want to build in Barre City. I don't want to do it. There's nothing. I'd rather go to Williamstown. You know why? Williamstown has no zoning. I can build there. I can do a lot of things there without. All I have to do is go by the state and federal regulations, but I don't have a whole bunch of. And I understand the regulations. They were meant in good faith to help people because some contractor came along, some landlord came along and screwed somebody. So then the state, the city, everybody gets involved to protect people. And there's always consequences when the government gets involved, when you can't self-regulate yourself. So what incentives are, Cody, maybe you can answer this because I don't know. What incentives is Barre City doing to bring a business here? I'd love to hear that. I guess I don't know. What would make me change my mind about Barre City and buying that 34 acres on Prospect Street? I just don't know. I don't know.
Well, on Act 250, you bring up a good point. And Act 250, when it was created back, 50, 60 years ago, was intended just to be, just a statewide set of regulations for communities that didn't have their own zoning. But it's become largely redundant at this point, and it makes development incredibly costly. You bring up a great point about New Hampshire, and it's something that they don't have over there. I started my career working over there, and I've had these conversations with developers about developing over in Vermont and how many more hoops that you have to jump through because of Act 250. And I know Governor Scott has worked at slowly trying to chip away at Act 250, but that's something that creates an industry all of itself. You've got environmental consultants.
Most of us are used to working with Act 250. That's not. No. But now you add on top of that all the city regulations and what they require.
Yeah. Booton says this is a drum that he's been pounding, and we need to loosen the zoning if we want more housing. And the tide is high. The tide is high. Cody and I have been consistent about that every Monday. That we've got to get some of these older buildings fixed up and get people in there.
Yeah,
the whole tax stabilization comes into all of this as well.
Do you know what the biggest scam is? Did you know in the city of Barre, if you do over $250 worth of work, you have to go and report that to the assessment. You're supposed to get a permit for it. Before, if you didn't do a certain amount of work, if you weren't changing your structural issue, well, now they added this in. Yeah. So It's these stupid little things that you keep adding in that are driving people out of here. They're not realizing the consequences to their actions every time they add a new tax, every time they add more regulations to this. All they're doing is they're hindering. They're asking for people to come and build, and then they shoot themselves in the foot. It's like, come over here, I would love for you to build, then they punch me in the face. And they're like, oh, no, please, no, seriously, I want you to do this. Then they punch me in the face.
Have you had a chance to voice your opinions to City Council at all, Rex?
Why would I? They know.
Wow.
I don't live in Barre City. It's Barre City residents.
Well, we're talking about the housing issue, but that's one thing. But we also Rex have some pretty amazing opportunities for small businesses to be coming into this city, and some vacant storefronts. You bet. What community doesn't have them? But we've had some really exciting new businesses that have popped up and are flourishing, and we've got some really amazing opportunity. What's going on with and I know I ask you about this all the time, but the Soups and Greens building right there in the plaza. And last week we talked about this, but are there any developments for that?
Yeah, so Soups and Greens, that property has had a fair amount of local interest. From what I understand, I know they're looking for national tenants, just being a strip mall or being a plaza and being an end cap space. They, the first one that comes to mind is like a Five Guys or some national chain that would go into the end of whether it's Lenscraft, I don't know, whoever, just some national. Little plazas like that tend to attract national tenants, so I understand that that's where more of their attention is going towards as far as recruiting new businesses to come into there. I know the lease rate is around the $4,300 a month mark, and it does need some equipment that would be in there, so not something that's insurmountable for a local entrepreneur, but I think that's presenting some opportunities with some
towards these national businesses instead of the heart blood of America, small business. You have everything.
Well,
that people can't afford to rent.
You'd have to ask the property owners.
Yeah,
I get it, but
property
that's not
owners.
keeping the money here local. You're giving it to some corporation. That's where the money's really going.
I think the attractiveness of that plaza has come into play and has been part of the discussion. But to Rex's point, make it affordable for somebody that's local that really wants to take that property and turn it into something great. Look at the J.J. Newberry building. I mean, the same deal.
Yep.
It was cheaper for Lucas to buy a church in Graniteville than it is to lease a building on Main Street in Barre with half the square footage.
Wow.
And that's a local business. That's what I'm talking about. You're going to gear everything. You don't make money off large corporations. They come from small businesses.
Yeah. Does the powers to be in Barre contact these national chains? And that's a question that Roseanne just asked. Do they go looking for these franchises?
I have personally.
You have. Okay.
I have personally, and I know White. The city's been working with White and Burke. They're a real estate development company out of Burlington, and they've also been working. They've contracted with the city on their TIF, their tax increment finance district. That's kind of an infrastructure funding mechanism, but. We've worked with White and Burke to identify some potential companies, and the city has as well to identify potential companies to try to recruit into there, but to look at potential development solutions. But what we're seeing right now, there's a ton of interest in space in downtown Barre, up in Barre Town as well. Even over in South Barre, but not just from entrepreneurs that are looking for storefronts, but also a lot of warehousing and distribution companies right now. There's not a ton of space over in Chittenden County for warehousing. Real estate over there is hard to find.
Sure.
So I had a company reach out to us on Thursday looking for a fair amount of land that's looking to set up a bigger warehousing distribution type operation.
Is there room available up in the industrial park in Barre Town?
I think a little over 40 acres right now available in the industrial park, and that's Act 250 permitted, and it has all of your utilities. So if you are Amazon and you want to go set up a 100,000 square foot warehouse up in the industrial park, you'll be able to, and it's pretty quick, and the town is going to be very happy to work with you. The town, Barre City as well, but the town is lucky to have great city municipal leadership with the city manager and town manager position, Carl Rogers and Steve McKenzie do an awesome job, but also zoning, working with Chris Violet up in the town has been great, and also and also Janet Shatney down in the city is just wonderful to work with. So we're lucky in that regard, but we've had a ton of interest from companies, not only in Barre, but outside of Barre, that have been looking to relocate their headquarters over here. So
why did we push Bombardier out if it's so great to work with that town up there? Why did we push Malden Mills out if it's so great to work with that town up there? There was big factories up there, and they're gone. And now they're begging for the people to come back. Why don't we just keep the ones that we have there already? I disagree. I don't think these people are that great to work with. If they were, those businesses wouldn't be gone. Those were huge businesses. They brought so much revenue. They have so much work for people. And I don't know. Maybe things have changed. I don't know.
Well, I think there's I think with the times that we're in right now, there is some great incentive to take advantage of programs, of loans, of whatever it may be, to pull the trigger on something that you might be thinking about. And a lot of people they're shopping. I mean, you just mentioned Chittenden County, Cody. I mean, people are shopping for opportunity and for space, and to be able to get relocated. And we've been marketing out of state for people to come up to Vermont, barryvt.com/business. But the Vermont Business Magazine, you've had a campaign, a marketing campaign with them to try to make sure that folks know that this is an attractive state to come and relocate to. I think Rex has got a good point. I think that super locally, I think that there's a lot of stagnation with the way that some city government can think, and I think that they really need to quickly start sharpening the edge and making, you know what I'm saying.
Oh, certainly.
If you're gonna market to these large businesses, the problem that we have in Vermont is the cost of living.
Yeah.
We don't have enough employees, so we don't. These guys, when you're talking about Amazon and stuff like that, they're not the highest paid people. They're just not, and you can't. So in Kentucky, the Amazon warehouse, those people make $6-7 an hour. You're never going to live here in Vermont on that kind of money. So how do you make an incentive for a large business like that has, believe it or not, even though they make large profits, their profit margins are usually very, very small because they do it in volume. So when you start charging them the kind of rent, the cost that it costs to build here in Vermont, when you add all of that in, it's just not feasible. I just don't see it being feasible for large corporations. So we need to, I think we're at a conundrum. We're at a turning point. We need to either focus and gear towards large businesses coming in, bringing in a lot of jobs so we can bring income and bring everybody up, or we need to focus on small businesses and helping them out to expand their businesses and stuff. I just find it really hard to market any kind, especially when you have surrounding states like New Hampshire. You can go to Kentucky, Tennessee. You can throw a building up down there and you've got unlimited amount of workers. So I just don't see.
New Hampshire is facing the same workforce issues that we are over here.
Yep.
They certainly are. Yeah, there are more workers over there, but there are more companies over there as well. And another thing that you're dealing with in New Hampshire is competition from companies out of Boston. You can make a lot more money as soon as you cross that border from Nashua into Methuen.
Oh, absolutely.
And You've got defense. There's a lot of advanced manufacturing down there. There's a ton of, you go anywhere in New Hampshire and they're going to have the same workforce issues that we are over here. So it's something that's happening, throughout the country right now, but especially in the Northeast.
So when you add in a workforce issue on top of the cost of building and the cost to maintain a building in Vermont, that to me that's like I don't know, that's a double whammy.
But people do it up here though. People are building up here. You look at someone like Tom Lozon, who's invested millions of dollars into this community. I know some of it he does out of the goodness of his heart, but there's certainly some profit motive out here. You look at someone like a Pat Malone Properties. They just barely bought the Goodfellows building down here, and they're renovating it. They saw a profit. They saw the potential to turn a profit here down in Barre City. They bought the Village Cannery building up on East Barre Road. And they probably didn't do that as a way just to hide their money. They probably saw that there's potential to do that over there. And in the Wilson Industrial Park, we just worked to help get a furniture manufacturer up there. They're going to bring about 10 or so jobs. They're going to be turning furniture there out at the old SB Electronics building down on Parker Road. And Vermont Creamery, they're going through about a three-phase, about $20-30 million expansion project. They're growing.
My God.
Vermont
So
Food
must be huge with my 10 employees then. If that's what you consider a big business, I mean, I just hired.
Well, you mentioned small ones too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to work. You said we got to work to bring big businesses in here, which, obviously everyone wants to go and catch the big fish. But small businesses are really the backbone of our economy. They're the people, if you walk up, you're a perfect example. You with your 10 employees, there's a lot that we can do to try to get a lot of these smaller companies in, and the smaller companies are the ones that primarily are calling us just because they're somewhere here within Vermont. Some part of their operation has expanded, so they're looking for commercial space.
Sure.
And they're looking for industrial space, and you're not going to find it out in Chittenden County right now because you can't get it permitted, and there's the Act 250. One great thing that we have here about Barre, one huge advantage is that we are a granite community. We've got the people that have worked in the trades for 150 years. And you've got a blue collar work ethic here. You've got a culture of hard work here. We've got the logistics here. We've got Bell Advanced Trucking. We've got Giroux General Transport that's training CDL drivers. We've got the Washington County Railroad that goes right up to the quarries. The Granite Industry. The Granite Industry creates other industries to serve that one as well. You have stone, or you have
Trout and Holden.
You have Trow and Holden. You've got Mile Supply. You've got tool suppliers. There are also going to be people that need to make those tools as well. Trow and Holden is a perfect example. But you also have iDry up in the Wilson Industrial Park. You've got Arcana right down here in downtown. You've got Arcane. Yeah, you got the maple syrup guys up there too. Agriculture is huge up here as well. We just had Cabot Creamery just rented space over in the Wilson Industrial Park.
There's the butter place in Websterville also.
Yep, there's a butter. Yep, there's
Where's that? Where's that?
Vermont Creamery. As soon as you drive into the Wilson Industrial Park, you take a left. And there are plenty of so the industrial park. We've had a lot of interest up in there. And one thing that's great about Barrytown, Barre City, the Barre area, is that because we are a granite community, we've got a lot of granite sheds. We've got a lot of industrial space. We've got a lot of warehousing space. There's a lot of buildings here in our community that have, let's say, 6-inch concrete, that have cranes, that have 20-foot ceilings. A lot of warehouse and distribution ready buildings, a lot of buildings that have 3-phase power and municipal utilities. Our water, sewer, our municipal utility usage is about 50% in here downtown, which means that we can take on a lot more load. We can take on a lot more demand if we have bigger companies that are looking to move here. Unfortunately, in Barre, in the city, we do have flood zones. A lot of buildings are historic. So they're a lot of brownfields, a lot of antiquated building practices from the 1800s that contaminated soil. So there are obviously issues, but there is a market here, and anywhere that there's a market, there's a people. There are raw materials being extracted from the ground. Anywhere there's an economy of scale, you're going to have spin-off services. No matter, businesses exist in California. Businesses exist in the state of California, and I've never tried to do business over there, but I would imagine their regulatory hurdles are, are more burdensome than Vermont's. I would imagine.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to ask you about, and we only have a few minutes left here, but I wanted to ask you about Scott McLaughlin.
Yep.
What's going on over there at the Granite Museum with the stone arts?
So over at the Granite Museum right now, they're partnering with the Central Vermont Career Center and Norwich University on design arts, and they have a couple programs in the works that are looking at training the next generation of sculptors for the granite industry.
Wow!
So Norwich University is actually looking at launching a 4-year program in that. Actually, so you'd be able to go get a bachelor's in.
Wow!
I think it's design art. Yeah, bachelor's in science and design arts right now that will help train those next generations of sculptors. But they're also looking at doing it at the high school level as well.
So that's something that we need to do is expand on what we already have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we're actually saying expand
Rex,
on what we already
have you heard
have.
about how Central Vermont Career Center is doing?
I went through stone trades in high school.
Oh, no
My
kidding.
family owns a stone shed right in Barre.
So Central Vermont Career Center, they actually had to turn out 150 kids this year, just because they don't have the space to house all the kids. So they're actually looking for bigger space.
Now, let me ask you this: do they still do the vocational program for the building trades and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Do they still require you to get good grades and be a model student to get into it?
It's an application process to get into the CTE program. It's not.
So back when I went through that was the opportunity for people that weren't going to go to college, and it just seems like now it's not anymore.
I went through an electricity program over at St. Jay, and it was the same. Even 15 years ago, that was the same. That was the same instance. I was just put right into the program. I had an interest in it, but I was put into the program under the same pretenses. So
yeah, I just didn't understand why they changed that. Why they would change that for kids. They're like, okay, well, you have a choice. You could go to college, or you could do trades. Then you have kids that don't have a choice, and they're like, okay, well, you're going to go into this program over here because you're a troubled kid. When in actuality, you get these guys into a trade.
No, I think it's getting more popular amongst young people. Again, they
should be. You got plumbers and electricians charging me $100 an hour, kids.
Well, think about it like this. What I want, I would want my general contractor, the guy that's building my house, or the guy that's working on my car, or the guy that's designing my house. I want him to know, or them. I want them to know just as much about math as my accountant, because I would rather them measure twice and cut once.
Please don't hire me. You don't want me over there.
No.
Don't hire me. Right, Rex?
Well, but the Career Center is growing. They're actually one of 2 tech centers that have increased enrollment during the pandemic, Rutland being the other one.
Wow.
So the Career Center is looking at really expanding their space. And, you have to actually go and apply now. So it's not – and I don't know when they did their application, like when they – implemented an application process, but they have automotive, they have building trades, they have plumbing and heating, they have natural resources. Those two last programs are actually looking for instructors. If you know somebody that's in the plumbing and heating world that wants to help mold the next generation, or if you know somebody that works in the sculpting industry, they're looking for an instructor. So
why wouldn't you set up your high school or whatever to go through? You go and you have a career path.
Yeah. Yep.
So why not give the kids the choice to go the career path to either head towards college or go right into trades?
Yeah. CDL instructors too.
Well, they do. They I think the German model is more what you're like. I know in some places.
Japanese model is
the German. Yeah.
You have a choice. You can go.
Yep.
Can start your high school to go towards trades, or you can go towards
I mean,
college.
you can still, like, when I went through the program, 15 years ago or so, I still had my normal classes. I still did English. I still did algebra. I still did all of that, but I would spend the last half of the day on the job site. So we went to the Catamount Arts Building right in downtown St. Jay, or we'd go to a house in Danville and wire it up. So that's how a lot of the programs are now. And we're actually involved with one of their advisory groups overseeing all the programs and just making sure that their skills and what they're doing is matching the needs of the local economy. I think I sent them your email for the building trades.
I missed the meeting. I was
Yeah.
on a job site.
Yeah. No.
Wait a second, you were home playing video games?
They reached out to us, Career Center, because I offered this to Jody Emerson. If any of their programs needed advisory board members to help oversee the program, then we'd help, and we ended up sending, I think, like 11 names. And the reason why I heard about that was because of this program. That's how I knew about Barslow Construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it also requires a lot of private sector buy-in. Stuff like, with Rex sitting on that advisory board.
Yeah.
If you want to build these programs and you want to get kids out into the workforce, there has to be private sector buy-in as well, because you can't rely on guidance departments to do all the heavy lifting for it.
This community navigation pilot grant, can we speak to that at all before we scoop?
Yeah. And there's another question, I think, in the chat I just wanted to get to quickly.
Yeah, get to them.
Well, just
sure.
we want to answer everyone's questions. We take these questions live for a reason. But yeah, there's another Community Navigator pilot program that's available through the state of Vermont, up to $5,000 for for-profit and nonprofit businesses. They utilize a hub and spoke model, so you'll apply, I think, with our regional economic development corporation. But I linked some information to the program in the chat right at the beginning, so go and check that out. We're learning about the program as well, but we're hoping to help plenty of Barre businesses and nonprofits get a hold of that money so that they can grow their business. So that we're going to be talking about that over the next, as long as the program's available, like the Embrace Grant program, which we talk about every week.
Sure.
But let's see, are there any other questions? I just want to make sure we get to everybody here.
There's a few on there.
A lot of good mornings.
Yes.
I like it when people wish us a good morning.
There's a few on there.
And I like unexpected cameos, too.
You
Yeah.
were supposed to call me this morning. You didn't.
I called you last night, you
was in
asshole.
bed.
I called you last night.
Was it after
Oh, you're in
8
bed at
o'clock?
8:30 at night?
Wait, you construction guys sleep?
Absolutely. Because I'm up at like 4 in the morning.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Any other questions in the chat, JD?
I don't think so. I mean, there's some, there's a lot in there.
Let's see.
Do landlords all know about the $37,000 or $30,000 per unit grant money that is for the state? One thing that they need to know about that is they have to spend the money first and then they get reimbursed on it.
Okay,
Because it's a grant.
Yeah, you send your invoices in.
Yeah, you said,
Let's see.
Yeah, we figured that out after I'd been working on a property for quite a while.
What's that?
We figured that out after I'd been working on a property for quite a while. That the money wasn't right there.
So Michael wanted to know, speaking of companies here, how do you feel the local options tax will affect manufacturing in the granite industry? I am not confident local options tax will actually have a terrible impact on stores, especially where Berlin is likely to take it up in November. I did note that it did not negatively affect the restaurants and hotels. Just curious what the BADC has for a take. So on the local options tax, we're not taking an official position on it. In my opinion, that would be about as appropriate as the fire department taking an official position. But just we're running on time here. Running short on time here, so I just want to.
There's no microphone on Rex.
So I just want to get so just for just for a disclaimer, we're not taking an official stance on it. I don't think it's appropriate for us to. However, I would think for the granite industry specifically, the granite industry is booming right now. We talked about some parts of production for manufacturing companies starting to turn their way back domestically just because of supply chain issues and the cost of getting containers from overseas. I would think that the granite industry is no different, and they're actually investing a lot in tools and technologies right now. I would think that with and I haven't spoke to Miles Supply specifically about this, but I would think a company like Miles Supply would probably have to add the 1% local options tax onto tools that are purchased from your local granite sheds. It might not be Rock of Ages necessarily, but it might be the smaller sheds that are going to be here. I would think Polycor has their own suppliers up in Quebec or wherever, but for a granite shed that's looking to grow, like a Trow and Holden and a Miles Supply I would think, and I haven't read the proposal, so I'm not sure exactly if it would cover tools and equipment, but with the granite industry growing right now, that would probably be subject to any tools that are bought from Trow and Holden or Miles Supply would probably be subject to that. If it covers services as well, Bell Advanced Trucking, they're a main artery just for getting granite in and out. Everyone's seen the granite go up and down Main Street. If it applies to services, I would think that it would be, that may be subject to it. But again, I don't have the proposal in front of me, so I'm not sure if that's something that would be part of it. But those are a few things that I immediately think of, and how it would, what it would be like for the granite industry. A lot of the granite industry primarily does wholesaling, so they'll sell to their individual stores throughout wherever. There's not a ton of, and there are places here, but there's not a ton of places where you can go and buy headstones in Barre. Like there probably are more than your average community, just because we are the granite city, but a lot of them are in the wholesaling business, and they'll sell in other parts of the country. But that's one part, or one way that it would impact the granite industry and how it would be affected.
I think you're doing a hell of a job, and I can't imagine having your position with Barre Area Development being one man. I think if there were three of you, I think you'd all three of you would be busy.
Well, I've got 15 actually. I've got a 15-member board of directors that represent the construction industry, represent we have Sarah Field, a real estate attorney. We've got commercial lenders, representing Northfield Savings Bank and Community National. We've got someone from Bell Advanced Trucking on our board, Stone and Browning Property Management. We've got CVTV represented on our board. We've got the financial services industry through Eddie Roos, Carl Rinker, who's the town busybody and who does a little bit of everything around here. We've got a ton of business experience, and I've got a huge network that I can immediately tap into for any question that I ever need to know about Barre. I can call anybody from my board and find out who to call, what developer to call, what attorney to call, and I've actually had businesses that have called me looking for recommendations for electricians or plumbers. So I just give a call to pretty much anybody on my board, and they'll say, oh yeah, call this person, and this person. Yeah. And so I've got a huge network right at my fingertips. So yeah, I'm the only one that does the day-to-day part, but I'm lucky to have a huge board that is very knowledgeable about development right here in Barre. So
and if you find someone that wants some construction or remodel done in the inside of their house, or they want a deck built tomorrow, tell them to call Rex Thompson over at Barstow Construction, because they can build the deck tomorrow. One part that
really makes my job easier. Is
Did you see
coming
the
on.
look he just gave me?
No, I can't. I can
many months
I can
he
only
backed
see him
up?
when he leans forward.
Well,
But
he almost took a swing at me.
But coming on here every Monday morning makes my job easier.
Yeah.
Because I'm only one person, and I can only talk about these programs, and I can only talk about this stuff to so many people.
That's
Many people in a day. So being able to get out to the 200, 300, 400, 500 people a week that we do really makes my job easier. And I've had companies reach out to me, that have watched the show, that have been interested in learning about this or that, or have given me a tip. I actually have a meeting today with one of your viewers.
Great.
That's a direct result of our partnership and us coming on. And with our marketing program, we touched on it quickly last week. With our marketing program, this is actually one of the things that we're doing with our funds, with our marketing program, and telling the story of Barre and helping promote these programs and let people know that all this stuff is out there. And I think it's also important too, because we are fully municipally funded. We're half funded by the city, half funded by the town. I think it's important too for community leaders, local government leaders. We're a nonprofit, so not technically government, but we're a government service for what it's worth. I think it's important for people like me to get out there and to talk to the community, to field questions, and to promote civic engagement. And
Well, we had it today.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. Oh, it was great.
We had it today.
Yeah, we had it today.
Just remind me next time that you and I are on for me to lock the door so Rex can't get in here.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Rex, I think. And thank you, Cody.
Yeah. Well,
as always.
Have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next Monday.
We appreciate it very, very much. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, for watching. Make sure, of course, to tell your friends to follow the page, to click like, to comment, and, of course, to share. Thanks for your eyes and your ears, and thanks to our presenting sponsors, of which Barre Construction and Barre Area Development are two of them, along with Granite City MMA, Preston's Kia, Gauthier's Quality Grounds and Maintenance, Wright Electric, Wood Doodles, Donnybrook Fight Promotions, the Barre Montpelier Times Argus, ASB Financial, Vermont Custom Woodworking, CW Creative, Gustos, FGB Theaters, Central Vermont Chamber of Commerce, Salvador and Babbitt, Fecto Homes, Green Mountain Mulch, Fontaine Forestry and Millwork, Giroux General Transport, Emsley's Florists and Gifts, and the Cornerstone Restaurant. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you soon. Mr. Tom Lozon is going to be with us tomorrow, right here on Aired Out, talking about taxes and how insane they all are. Insanely busy, I should say, over at Salvador and Babbitt right now. We'll catch you tomorrow, everybody. Stay warm today. We're at 20 degrees right now at 10:13. Have a great rest of your day.